Hi everybody! One of your projects this week is going to be to create a Zentangle, which demonstrates at least 3 of the elements of art that we learned about this week in the lesson. And this Zentangle project is kind of like a fancy way to doodle. A Zentangle is a miniature piece of unplanned abstract art created through a very specific method from an ensemble of simple structured patterns called tangles. So you can see that we have lots of different tangles here in this particular example of a Zentangle. So I'm going to go over the different ways that you can create a Zentangle and do a little demonstration of the project in this video. So here's one example of a Zentangle. You can see this one sort of has a cartoony style. We've got kind of the focal point of a cartoon octopus looking creature, and so some Zentangles actually do have pieces of the Zentangle that are a little bit more realistic, or at least they resemble something. So abstract usually means that it is not realistic looking. This one isn't realistic, but it does you have an idea of what the subject is for this piece, and then the rest of the piece is sort of filled in with these tangles. Here's another example of one that is completely abstract. This one does not really have a clear focal point, and it doesn't have anything that resembles like a character or an animal or a subject. So this is another option for you this week. You can go completely abstract, or you can pick sort of a subject matter for your piece. Here's one more example of a Zentangle that has some subject matter. I think this one is very interesting because it has a little bit of a silhouette going on, and it also has a positive-negative feeling. So in part of the composition they decided to do the black background with the tangles in the foreground, and in this one they decided to do a black foreground and tangles in the background. So just some examples for you to think about this week. You do have options as far as if you want to make it completely abstract, or if you want to have a subject, a focal point of some sort. It is up to you. Just get creative and have fun with it. The other goal of the Zentangle this week is to make sure that we include the elements of art. Here we have on this side the principles of design. We're really focusing mostly on the elements of art this week. These are good to remember as you are creating your work, because remember, our elements are our tools and our principles are our rules to follow to help us create an effective piece of artwork. So we have line, shape, color, value, form, texture, and space. So as I'm working today, I'm going to be thinking about how I can incorporate these different elements of art into my art piece. But first I need to get started on setting up a framework for my Zentangle. So for mine, I decided that I wanted to do have a little bit of a subject for my piece. So what I'm going to do is I've actually created here a silhouette of my dog that I'm going to use in my Zentangle. If you want to use something like this, where you have an image that you want to sort of use the framework for your Zentangle, I'm going to show you one kind of neat way that you can do that. So I printed this image off of my computer, and I created the silhouette of my dog, but you can find a lot of silhouettes online if you want to use an image just for inspiration that's already created. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and start coloring in with my pencil, because I want to be able to copy this image of the dog onto my paper. So I'll go ahead and show you how you can do that if you have an image that you're working from. So you want to color in everywhere you see the picture through the paper by holding your pencil to the side like this, so you can really get a lot of graphite on your paper. Okay, now that I have the design completely colored in, I can flip it back over and start tracing onto my paper. And this will actually, it acts as a like carbon copy. It will actually copy the image onto my paper. But I want to make sure that it stays there. It doesn't move around a lot on me. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece of tape here just to tape it down to my table. So now that I have it taped down, I'm just going to go ahead and go around the edges of the dog and trace the lines, sort of pressing hard on my pencil. Okay, now I've traced the entire dog, and I can flip up my paper and find a nice silhouette that I can work with here on my Zentangle. So now that I've got my silhouette, I can start breaking up the background into different shapes for myself as well. Now, when creating a Zentangle, these little lines are called strings. So now I have all the different strings in place that I need, and the next step is going to be thinking about what kind of tangles I want to put in each of these spaces. So I want to remember to make sure I get some of the elements of art in there. Oops. I want to make sure I get some of the elements of art in there. Now that I've got all of my Zentangle patterns all filled in with pencil on my drawing, I want to go over everything with marker. So for this task, I'm going to go ahead and use this Sharpie that has an ultra fine tip on one side and a fine tip on the other. This will give me a little bit more flexibility when I'm going over my lines and shapes, so that if I need a super tiny line, I have that tool, and if I need a larger line, I have that for me as well. So I'll go ahead and start going over all of my lines in Sharpie. So I went over everything in marker, and I found some areas that I thought would look nice if they were colored in with black. So I just went ahead and colored different shapes in, just to add a little bit more contrast with the piece. And so now what we need to do is just erase our pencil lines. So you'll still might see some of them through your different shapes that you've drawn past the marker. So go ahead and use an eraser to erase those. Okay, so the last step is going to be adding color. For this step, you can use colored pencils, crayons, markers, oil pastels, anything that has color. So just think about the different areas and what you might want to color in and what kind of colors you want to add to it. You can leave some parts white, it's up to you, but go ahead and add some color at this point. Alright, here is my finished product of the Zentangle project. I've got value, shape, line, texture. We could talk about a lot of different ways that these can kind of identify the elements of art. But in your project, just make sure you mention at least 3 that you captured. And have fun with this project. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, give me a call, send me a text, or send me an email. And I hope you enjoy it. Have a great day.